I'm going to show you how to make a pretty nice, I think, notification system in a React app in about 100 lines of code or less. Now, notification is kind of a broad term. This can range from anywhere between like an in-your-face, super annoying pop-up that is right in your face that you can't even get past, like this one, which high amount of interruptiveness, high amount of interactivity. Or on the other end, a notification for your app can range to like a small little snack bar or toast that's just very subtle, low amount of interruptiveness, low amount of interactivity. And this kind right here, this snack bar or toast as they're called, is what I'm going to show you how to make. And I'm going to do it using React, obviously, and also using two tools built with React. One is MUI, formerly known as Material UI, now MUI. I think everyone still calls it Material UI. MUI is kind of a weird thing to say. So the styling library will be Material UI. This is the one that's going to have the actual little snack bar component in it. And the other one is Redux Toolkit. Now, if any of you have used Redux in the past, you might already want to like leave this call because you don't like it. But Redux Vanilla is very difficult, but Redux Toolkit is awesome. And I'll be using Redux Toolkit, and then I'm going to actually be like setting up Redux from scratch here too. And it's going to be a lot simpler than vanilla Redux in the past. Any questions so far? No? All right, so I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to create a new code sandbox here. I'm going to use React with TypeScript. I'm going to begin by, I'll scroll up to my notes here, adding all the dependencies that we need. And there's going to be a couple of them. One is, of course, MUI. And MUI also uses this other library called Emotion for its styling. Cool thing about Code Sandbox is it installs these dependencies like, it must have them cached in the background because it kind of installs them instantly. Redux.js Toolkit. And then the last one is good old React Redux. Okay. So those 5 libraries are the ones that we need. And if you were to go to the MUI website, like it shows the libraries right there. It shows what needs to be downloaded. So pretty straightforward. All right, so here's our app, the basic sandbox template app with TypeScript. First thing we'll do is we'll create directories where our stuff is going to be. We'll make a Redux folder. We'll make a components folder. And we'll make a hooks folder. All right, we're going to start by making our store, our Redux store. And for those that don't know, Redux is just a way to manage your application state really, really well. And it uses what's called a store. So we're going to start by importing this configure store method from Redux and creating this store object. And Redux store uses things called reducers to hold what the state is. We're going to have a reducer called notification here pretty soon, but we haven't built the logic for it yet. So right now it's just empty. And then finally, we want to export the type. And that's it. Redux has now been set up in the app. With vanilla Redux, you'd have to put in a whole bunch more code, but Toolkit just uses this snazzy configure store method to set it all up for you in the background. Reducer is empty for now, so let's build what is called a Redux slice, which is a pattern that Toolkit introduces. Call it notification slice. Now, in the past, I don't mean for this call to be all about me tearing into vanilla Redux, but I just seem to be talking about it a lot. In the past, with vanilla Redux, you'd have to declare actions, declare reducers, declare action strings. You'd have all these different files, but Redux Toolkit introduces a pattern called a slice that takes care of all that for you. All right, we're going to start by importing some types, and then I'm going to show you what our little slice of state will look like. So this notification, this little snack bar that's going to be popping up, we're going to have some properties on it. We're going to have to tell if it's open or not, what the type is, whether it's like a success or an alert or info or error, and this is going to tell you what kind of color it is. The actual message in itself, like the string message, and then the timeout. And for this state, we're going to have some default values for it. So we want the default for it to be, not open. We want the default type to be info, no message, and then the default timeout can be 5 seconds. So when the snack bar pops up in 5 seconds, it should disappear. Now we're going to create notification slice, actual slice itself. Slice just takes a few parameters. The name, it's just a string. The initial state, which we've declared here, initial state. And then here are the reducers. And the reducers are what allows us to update the store. So the store is just the brain that holds the data, the application state, and the reducers is what allows us to update the store. So we're going to have 2 reducers, one for adding a notification and one for clearing the notification out, removing it. Since people are watching me code, my typos per minute will go way up. And if you're not familiar with the Redux model, but a reducer goes in and then state comes out. Or sorry, like the existing state and a payload goes into the reducer and then new state comes out. So is it existing state with this type called payload action. And the type in this case is we're just going to pass in the entire state. And we want the state that comes back to be, the default state, so we can maintain these values. Then they come back. We want whatever is passed in to overwrite them. But then when we add a notification, we want the open value to be true. This is important because this is what's going to actually show the little snack bar. This state object isn't actually used, so we can just prefix it with an underscore. Our clear notification is just going to clear out the state. So we can just return whatever state is currently there, but then we want to close it. So open is false. And then finally, the last 2 lines of this file, we're going to export notification slice actions and the notification slice reducer. All right, so there's our slice. Next is we want to go back to the store and we want to tell the store that this piece of state, we'll call it notification, uses the slice that uses the reducer of the slice that we just made. Notification reducer. So you'll remember that we're exporting this notification reducer right here. And we're telling the store that we're going to have a piece of the store called notification. That is the shape of the notification reducer. All right, so our Redux side is completely set up. We don't need any more Redux code. Next thing we can do is we can make a nice custom hook. Let's call it use notification. And this is what's going to allow us to interface with this slice. So we need to use dispatch for sure. Dispatch. And then we'll just make 2 wrapper methods that wrap around these 2 reducers. We have one for adding and one for clearing. Do the same thing here. We'll call it display notification. And clear notification. So in this one, we'll simply dispatch the add notification method, but it needs a parameter. It needs to have notification state to dispatch. So we'll have it take one in as parameter. Just pass it right along. Anything here, we'll have this called clear notification, doesn't take any parameters. All right, so we got those two methods, and then we want to simply return those two methods. So anybody that uses this hook anywhere will have these methods exposed to them. Display notification and clear notification. All right. That's it for our custom hook. So we got our store set up, we got our custom hook, and then finally we want the actual component itself. So the actual like MUI component that's going to display here, that little snack bar alert, we're going to put in components. We're going to call it notification TSX. So from MUI, we're going to be using the components snack bar, the alert, and snack bar close reason. That's what we'll get from MUI. We should import React from React course. We're going to be reaching into state, so we'll be using use selector. We'll need the shape of state. We'll use that, viewer state. And then finally, the custom hook that we just made. I need to refer to the correct location here, Redux, and then store. This is in hooks. Use notification. All right. This notification, we want to first have it reach into our state and see what data is there in Redux. So for that, we use selector. We know the state type is root state, and from it we want state.notification. And this notification right here, we declared in the store right here. All right, so from here, we're always going to have access to the data in the store. We want to have, from this custom hook, we want to have the ability to clear the notification. Now, the reason we're not calling display notification from here is because that's going to be called from when the custom hook is used in other components. Anytime we want to call this component, they're the ones that are going to use display notification. And I'll show you that later. We want to return here. I'm going to here's the actual component itself. It consists of a snack bar component, which wraps around an alert component. And you can see here that I'm using all these values from store, the notification open value, the timeout, the type, and the message. And these all have a default value on them. The open one is default to be false. The timeout defaulted to 5,000? Yeah, 5,000 milliseconds. The type default was info. And then the message default was just an empty string. So we have this handle close. So when that timeout happens, or if the user clicks on the little X that's going to come with it, handle close will be called. And I'm just having it set up so if the reason is not click away, then clear the notification. Because for some reason, they have their snack bar set up so that if you click outside of it, it closes it automatically. I don't really like that because someone might click accidentally. So I just have that turned off here. And that's it. Notification has been set up. Now comes the cool part. Normally in many apps that I've built anywhere where I've built these notifications, I've made basically like a new notification per little modular component that I have it in. So I'd end up with lots of different components that are nearly identical. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could just make one and just pass different parameters to it different looks, different messages, different timeouts, but I would only really need one notification component in the whole app. Well, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to go to index, and we're just going to add notification right there next to it. We just got to import it. Components, notification. Now, because we're using Redux, we'll have to wrap this whole thing in a provider and pass the store to it. Let's let Code Sandbox load here. And that is the whole system of notifications set up. When I counted the number of lines before, I think it came out to 91. If you count the 6 lines of code added here and the number of lines in all these files, it's about 91 lines of code. Because I know I said, do it in 100 lines of code or less. So now the whole system is set up. Now, anywhere in the app, if you want to display notification, all you have to do is import that hook, use notification, and use the method display notification. So here, I'll make a button here. I'll call it the community. And just so you see better, and we'll, on the on-click handler, we'll just say, when it's clicked, call display notification, pass in the message. It says, hi there. You should see it. Hi there. Yeah, so if you guys are visual like me, I just made a little diagram here of basically what I built. Like you start with the store. This is what has all the data for your notification. The slice is what updates the store. The little custom hook is what basically wraps around the slice so it's easier to work with. The notification itself uses the custom hook for like disappearing, clearing itself out. And then any component that you want to have display that notification, we'll just call that custom hook and we'll do all this work for you.